Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 3D Artist Newsletter Interview Series. I don't have a good name for this yet. We're still working through it. But today I'm extremely excited to be joined by Debra Coleman. Debra is here to talk to us about coaching, VFX, animation, any artist that works on the screen. But I'm extremely excited because Debra is an extremely accomplished artist in her own right. She's worked as a compositor at Cinesite, at Tippett, and she worked for 16 years at Double Negative, leading to her position as the Global Head of Compositing. And I am extremely excited to get into it with her and talk to her about her role as a coach and helping artists in this industry and just all the different ways that we can help people go from their early parts of their career into the meat of their career and leadership roles and all that good stuff. So before we get into the coaching and mentoring though, Debra, I really want to hear about your history in the industry. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got your first job and your time working as a compositor in the VFX industry?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Michael. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So my first job in the industry was as a runner at Cinesite in London. And even just getting that first job, that was one of the biggest challenges, is how do you get your first job? Because once you've got your first job, for me, it all continued from there. So I'd graduated from university, I'd moved to London, and I was working at Harrods while I was trying to find a job in the industry. So I was applying for jobs. Just so happened that one of the women I worked with at Harrods, she was a cleaner at Harrods. She was also a cleaner at Cinesite. So she knew I was looking for a post-production job. She saw an internal memo, said, "Is this the kind of thing you're looking for?" And that's how I heard about the runner's position at Cinesite. So, I'd been applying. It probably took me about 6 months from graduating to getting that first job. Or I was working, but first job in the industry. But yeah, it was, I really think you never know how you might hear about an opportunity.
Yeah, when you were in university, were you studying film? Is this what you knew you wanted to do? Or were you where were you at coming out of school?
No, when I went to uni, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was studying English literature and media studies. So while I did the media studies, we did some practical photography. We did a little bit of practical video production. And that's when I thought, I like being hands-on. I like image creation. I wonder if there's a career in this. Because we're talking the early 90s, Michael. So visual effects was not very well established, certainly not in the UK. I wasn't really aware of it as a career option. But going through my degree, I started to think, I'd like to be behind the camera in some way. Got the first opportunity I got was at Cinesite, and really that's launched my career in visual effects ever since.
And then as you move, so 16 years is a remarkable time to spend at one studio, especially in the state of the industry where everything's so much in flux. How did you enjoy, how did the industry, I guess, change over that time period? Because that is when the industry just exploded from, just a kind of smaller studios here and there to really what it is today. I mean, can you talk through your time at, as leading up to your Global Head of Compositing?
Yeah, sure. I think I was fortunate to join the industry. It's always been growing. As long as I've been involved, it's been growing. So there's always been new opportunity. And when I joined DNEG, I was already a senior compositor. I was returning to London from Tippett Studio, which I loved working at Tippett. Have to say, shout out to East Bay. Joined DNEG, wanted to be back in London. And DNEG Double Negative was small then. I think they were a year or two old, maybe. And they just grew every single year. There was kind of a running joke that the owners, Matt and Alex at the time, always said, we're not going to get any bigger. We're not going to get any bigger every single year. And every single year they won more work. So then they hired more people. And then they needed more work because they had more people. And then they won more work. So it just kept going and kept going. And I think for me personally, I hadn't actually been there that long before I found out I was pregnant with twins. So I moved from being a senior compositor to being the parent and a senior compositor and working part-time. And that worked really well for me for years, until I was just ready for a new challenge. The children were starting school, and DNEG had reached a point where they were big enough to create this new position called artist manager. And when I saw them advertise that, something about it just caught my attention. I think I was ready for that next step, move into management, leadership. And it was about improving the artist experience within the business, or that's the part of it that really appealed to me. And I was really pleased that when I applied for it, I got offered the position on the understanding it was full-time. So I had to go back to being full-time. And then I think the leadership roles just kept growing from there. So again, as the company grew, I sort of really stayed in step with my line manager. So my line manager for almost the whole time was Chris Byrne. And every time he got promoted, I got promoted alongside him. I think we made a good team. So that eventually led to being Global Head of Compositing for a number of years as well. Yeah.
It's such a big difference between being an artist on the box and being an artist manager and being a leader. How did you find that you fit one role better? Did you enjoy them both? Is it, did one kind of pair with your life versus, at different times of your life? Like, how did you feel about that transition?
Yeah, they are very different, and it's a tricky transition to navigate because you go from being part of the team to having some responsibilities for the team, really. And also you're moving away from being a hands-on, on-the-box artist to really being the artist manager in particular. It's a management role. It's not really a creative, image-based role. Very different. But for me, I was looking for that new challenge. So I'd enjoyed compositing, but I'd done it. I'd been doing it for 12 plus years. And I think I've always been really interested in people. So really interested in images and storytelling, but really interested in people. So I think moving into how do I support the other artists to be, the best they can be, suited me well, really.
That kind of leads me into the next question about, because you transitioned from an artist to this leadership position, and now you started your own company. You are working as, you're pivoting from working in from Double Negative to working as a mentor and coach with individuals. Can you talk about that process of making that decision to start your own business?
Yes. So I think, again, I was in the leadership roles for a long time, probably about 10 years in total, I think. Again, the company kept growing, more opportunity, but at a certain point, it's a little like Groundhog Day. There will be challenges every day, but to some extent, it's a bit like, let's deliver another 5 shows. So I think I was ready for a new challenge. I was thinking, what am I most interested in? What am I really good at? And again, it's about getting the best out of people, supporting people. So that led me to train as a coach. So I trained as a coach while I was still working at DNEG. I funded it myself, but again, my manager was very supportive. And then I did. And then within a year, less than a year, I realized, I love this. I love coaching. I think I'm good at it. It's so rewarding. It's almost like what I was doing condensed, because you can work one-to-one with people and you can really see the progress very quickly. So it's very rewarding, but still a very big decision to leave, as secure as you can be in this industry. So 16 years at a really big company, Oscar winning, great people. To leave that and set up on my own was a big decision, but I think it was just both a head and heart decision. So it felt right, and I thought it through, and I thought I need to just try this. I need to try it and see what happens. And it will be an adventure. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll have to find something else. But fortunately, it's going well. So yeah.
That's great. That's a great mentality to think. So you talked about coaching. Can you and I think that I want to make sure that there's no miscommunication about what that actually looks like and what that means. Because as I was reading your bio and as I've talked to you a little bit, it kind of makes me go like, maybe like, is coaching something that I need? Can you kind of talk us through what basic coaching mentorship would look like? How do you start? How often do you meet? What do you talk about? Like, do you establish end goals? Kind of talk us through the process of coaching and mentoring somebody.
Yes, certainly. So coaching and mentoring are different. I'm first and foremost a coach, certainly. So what that looks like, well, I provide one-to-one coaching sessions, and I also run group coaching workshops. So the group work is around leadership skills, around time and stress management, those kind of things. The one-to-one coaching is a combination of people come to me themselves, because they're looking for a coach, and I do coaching within visual effects studios as well. But the process is exactly the same. So however my clients come to me, we always have a free, no obligation chat, first of all. And that's so I can explain what coaching is, check in about what are they looking for. So we need to both be clear about their goals. So you asked, are their end goals? Yes. What is it you want to get from the coaching? What has brought you to me? And usually it's that people are a bit stuck in some way. So they're kind of stuck in some way and they don't know how to move forwards. So the coaching helps them find that momentum, basically. And then we usually, most often, it's 1 hour sessions and we have 6 sessions. There are some people I've coached for much longer. There's some people I coach every 2 weeks and have done, on an ongoing basis. But with most clients, 6 sessions is sufficient to get them moving again. If that makes sense.
Totally. No, and I'm curious about, because you talked about the blockers that people have in their career path. I'm wondering how many people see it themselves versus how many people are like, hey, this is what's going on, and you being this outside of voice with experience and in your own perspective, how much are you able to unveil or uncover for people what their blockers actually are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, it mostly has to come from the individual, because coaching is only effective if you want to change. So you have to come to coaching knowing that something needs to change here, even if I don't know what it is yet, but this is no longer where I want to be or how I want to operate, or, I'm frustrated or I'm stressed or I'm lacking confidence. So they have to want to change. And then most of it is me helping them understand themselves better. And by understanding ourselves better, we can then make choices, really. But there is a certain element of me also, in coaching, we'll call it holding up a mirror. So, I might share my observations. And sometimes that's helpful information that they weren't aware of. And also sometimes I had a session earlier today, and, my client was feeling uncertain about the way they behaved. And I was able to say, that is perfectly valid way. That's a, known strategy. It works well. They're like, oh, great. Okay. So sometimes it is about just reassuring people as well.
That's great. Yeah. And it is interesting to think about the group that you get that come to you is already kind of I want to say like a pre-filtered group of people who've already said, you know what, I think I need some coaching or guidance. So you've now, as you've seen more and more people, are you picking up on commonalities? Are there common struggles that you'll see kind of across artists that kind of come up time and time again? Is there something that you would basically I'm looking for advice for the audience here of like, what are some general things that they can take away?
Yeah. I think I quite often coach people around confidence. So people might be lacking in confidence. That might be because of, life has taken its knocks. It might be because they've been promoted and suddenly they used to be great at what they did and now they don't know what they're meant to be doing. It might be
the nature of our business, right? Like it's a creative industry. You're putting yourself out there and you get critiqued every day. And in best case scenario, somebody goes, all right, I guess that's good enough. We'll shift it, right? Like, and then, so very rarely is it ever, wow, that looks so great that, you normally don't get that level of praise. So yeah, so I think the nature of things kind of hits at your confidence a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And the contract-based, project-based, contract-based nature of our industry too. You're always having to join a new team, join a new studio, prove yourself again. I think really you need a certain level of self-confidence in order to do well. So yeah, confidence, stress as well, I would say, how to manage the uncertainties, how to manage the expectations, the hours, the pressures, both within work and outside of work. So that's something we sometimes work on. Off the top of my head, that's what comes up for me. Yeah.
That's good. And then for leadership, somebody who's just been promoted, going through the training they went through from an artist on the box to a leader of a team of people, of helping them, achieve their creative goals. What are some common struggles or things that you see from leaders in our industry?
Oh, I think leaders, again, if you're new to leading or you've got new responsibilities, it's not always sure what's expected of me. How do I know if I'm doing a good job? I think often people have to learn how to delegate. So that takes time. So learning how to delegate, learning how to really build a team and work with a team. One of the most common ones is how to have difficult conversations. So they'll say, typically a client might say, there's just some people I can't work with. But often what they mean is they're not doing what I want them to do. And it usually comes down to communication. Do they even know what you want them to do? Have you been clear about the expectations? Let's try that a different way. What might it be like in their shoes? What do they need from you? So quite often it's helping people understand how to flex their leadership style, both to the different members of the team and to the situation. Yeah. So if we learn
get flexible. Yeah. Each individual kind of has their own leadership style, leading by example, kind of being a listener, being a mentor. Like I'm sure that different people approach problems because having those difficult conversations is not fun for anybody. There's nobody who's like naturally good at it, I don't think.
No.
I did. You got into this industry the first website.
Yes.
So it's good. All right. So we've talked about leadership. I kind of want to jump back, and I want you to approach this next question as if you're approaching yourself. You're just getting your first. You're going back to that first job as a runner at Cinesite. If your first day you walk in the door, if you could approach yourself with what you know now, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give somebody who's just starting on their first day, regardless of the position, I guess? But for you, that first runner job, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, don't put the cafetiere in the dishwasher because I broke two and I thought I was going to get sacked. Hand wash them with care. Don't lose your job over this. I would also say,
because that's everybody. That is common advice.
Yeah, exactly. Don't put it in the dishwasher. I think this industry, more than anything, might be true across all industries, it's about relationships and it's about communication and it's about your network. So really, you want to work well with everybody. So I think that would be my advice when I'm starting out. I think that comes to me naturally anyway. I don't go around making enemies of people, but you want everyone to want to work with you again. You want people to recommend you. Because that gives you more choices. So I think that's probably the most important thing.
See, and that's incredible advice, because I know, and when we're talking about confidence, especially from young artists, it usually centers around technical knowledge or craft, and I think that's such good advice to anybody who's starting, that stuff will come. And they know that you're a junior, you're just starting, and if that you need time to develop. But what they don't have time for is a coworker that's difficult, somebody who's unreliable, somebody who's not pleasant to be around for long periods of time. I think those soft skills are as important, if not more important, than the actual work that's being produced.
Yeah. And I think thinking back, it was so much about being curious and listening and learning. Because really, I mean, when I joined, I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about compositing or visual effects or management, nothing. And I learned it all on the job. And I learned it by observing the team around me and asking questions and listening to the answers and then applying it. So I think, be aware you're surrounded by so much expertise. This is your training ground, really. So make the most of it. Yeah.
I love that advice of being genuinely curious. That's so good, because there's a sincerity and from like someone who's genuinely curious. There's I mean, that's what you want out of somebody who's starting like this. Somebody's bringing fresh energy into the building, who can, ask you questions about your workflow, look at things differently. Just be that energetic level. That's incredible advice. I want to fast forward to where we are today. I'm curious, because we're in a little bit of a state of flux in our industry right now. We've got the writer's strikes, we've got AI technologies, we've got it feels, I said this year at SIGGRAPH, that every time I went to SIGGRAPH, it felt like a linear progression. Like the look of things got better, the technology took a step, like the presentations about the craft, like everything just, kind of built on itself. Where this year, everything was kind of all over the place between the strikes and AI and everything. What is your take on the VFX? We'll stick with like the VFX and film-based industries for now. Like, what's your take on the future? Are you optimistic about things, pessimistic? Like, where are you at with where the world is right now?
Yeah, where the world is, but we're thinking about VFX.
Really? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's right. I'm an optimistic person by nature. And I am optimistic about our industry. It is a difficult time right now. It is, and it's impacting a lot of people. And it's important that, we recognize that. Having said that, I mean, of course I'm optimistic. We get to create images that help tell stories, and humans are storytellers. Humans are very visual, and we are storytellers. So I think the fact that we essentially create images to tell stories, there's always going to be a need for that. It's been growing and growing and growing in terms of, content creation and content, how much content we're consuming. And I think we shouldn't be afraid of technological development. Everything we do is because of technological development, right? So, as you say, you have seen year on year, it's looked linear, but it's always been a progression, always. So I don't think we should be afraid of that. I think it's important that we embrace it, because it's really at the heart of how we do what we do.
That's great. That's wonderful. Okay, great. So I'm sure if you're like me, after listening to Debra for the last 28 minutes or so, you're probably curious maybe about reaching out for your own coaching. So Debra, if somebody was curious about getting in contact with you, what would be the best way to go about that, or to find more information about your coaching?
I've got my website is openframecoaching.com or .co.uk, either or. And I'm on LinkedIn as Debra Coleman, PCC, which is my coaching qualification. They're the two easiest ways to find me, are through my website or on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And if you're reading the newsletter and watching this that way, I'll put those links in there. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll also throw the links down below as well. Debra, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today before we part ways? Any passing wisdom you want to give to artists in the industry?
I think I just wanted to say thank you to you, Michael, for reaching out to me, because I think it's a great example of what's one of the wonderful things about our industry is people talking, there's a shared interest, there's a shared passion, and talking about it is just helpful for everybody, sharing experiences, sharing support, that comes back to that mentoring, that coaching. The more we can support and encourage each other, the better, really. I guess my advice is we can all play a part in creating a positive environment to work in together.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. And for everyone that knows, it's like genuine curiosity thing. So Debra and I have never worked together. We've never met in person. We met on LinkedIn, of all places. LinkedIn gets teased a lot, but I joke that a man, as a man in his 40s, LinkedIn has turned to be into my favorite social media app out there. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. So just keep reaching out. The people in this industry are incredible. The creatives love to share their work, talk about their work, talk about their experiences. So I just saw, Debra and I connected, and I was just blown away by what she was doing. I was very curious about her coaching, so I just reached out and started this conversation, and here we are today. So Debra, thank you so much for taking the time. This is going to be my genuine goodbye to you, because I don't know how to stop this without actually ending the call or anything. So seriously, thank you so much for meeting with me, taking the time to go through these questions. I'm blown away by what you're building and what you're doing and how you're helping people. And I hope that we can stay connected and work together in the future. So if you ever need anything from me or from us, just please let me know.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too.